Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Good morning, Karin.
Good morning, Dr. Randall.
I'm so pleased to have Karin Yehling on the show today. She's an expert in diabetes treatment as well as many other things. She's a certified functional medicine health coach, and I'm certified in functional medicine as a doctor, so I know how long that takes. So. Yeah. She's also a nutrition coach and a personal trainer. She works with people on type 2 diabetes and she helps them prevent, reverse, and control their diabetes through permanent dietary and lifestyle changes. She does this primarily through her online group coaching program. It's just an amazing program. You guys have to tune into that, see if you can get on there if this is something you need. It's called... is it called Type 2 or T2?
T2.
T2 Diabetes Warriors. And it allows her to work with more people and reach their health goals while they get support from their fellow warriors. So there's a group, and then there's her as the leader and the teacher. Having reversed her own type 2 diabetes, Karin wants others to know that this reversal is possible. There's a lot of misinformation and debate going on around about reversing diabetes, and Karin wants to guide people into the right direction so that they can live their healthiest lives. Karin played many sports, and I understand from a good source she was All-American. Is that right?
Well, I don't know about All-American, but okay, we'll go there.
Somebody says that. That's related to you.
Sounds like a brother thing. Yeah.
Anyway, she's very modest too, I guess, but she earned a college softball scholarship, and later on she competed in racquetball and obstacle course racing. Oh my God, I saw her jumping over some flames in a picture. With competition in her rearview mirror, her playground is now the Sierras. I saw another picture of her. She says where she hikes and camps and snowboards, paddleboards with her husband and her dogs. I saw this other picture of her with her arms. She has these tremendously beautiful, muscular arms. I thought I had guns. She's got hers. She beats me, but she's got her dog in her 80-pound backpack and her dog.
80 pounds. You're exaggerating now, Doc.
Well, that's what it looks like. It looks like one of those 80-pound backpacks. It's a huge one.
It's a regular backpack, but I had to have that just to fit my dog in there. So.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it didn't look light. She's a strong lady in many ways, and she's a great role model and teacher for this area. So I welcome you on the show, Karin. How did you get into this other than having diabetes? I mean, like prior to that, how did you get into health coaching? Was it the athletics or?
I think, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I would say, as an athlete, I was an injured athlete. My career ended with an injury. It was a path. I started working in physical therapy after that because I had so much physical therapy. Then I got into personal training, and then I wanted to expand that, and functional medicine just really knocked on my door. Dr. Diedrich Sopler was a big influence there for me for 30 years ago. So, and then I started reading Dr. Jeffrey Bland's books, Mark Hyman's books.
Three of my favorite people right there. You know,
Yeah.
Diedrich used to be in my office.
Yeah. I remember that. And so it all resonated with me. I've always been one to ask why. I'm a very curious person. I want to know why everything works, how it works, and functional medicine gets to the root cause of disease. So I knew I wasn't going to be a personal trainer forever. Just physically, it was pretty demanding on me. So I knew I was already helping people with their nutrition, and I wanted to explore that more. So that's when I went into nutrition coaching through Precision Nutrition, and that taught a lot of really good aspects about coaching, health coaching, but it was geared towards healthy people. And I knew I had a bigger audience to serve than healthy people, and that was the diabetic world. I come from a family full of diabetics, and my grandpa was insulin dependent, type 2. All of his siblings were diabetic. And we're talking, this is my grandpa. My grandpa would have been, 150, 120 years old right now? This was his generation. This was a long time ago. This was before high fructose corn syrup came into the world, you know, and these people all had diabetes. And so when I was in college, I was a phys ed major with a specialty in nutrition and exercise physiology. And I started seeing this pattern. Even my grandpa was diagnosed, my mom was diagnosed, my aunts were diagnosed. It's like, uh-oh, you know, and you know, we were talking about diabetes a little bit here and there in my nutrition classes, and you know, I was even keeping an eye on my numbers, because even though I was so different from my family in that, the ones that had been diagnosed anyways, in that, you know, I ate a fairly healthy diet. You know, now I know better. I would just say fairly healthy. That's it. I was athletic. I kept my weight under control. But it really, it started, you know, what's this genetic component going on here? And then it hit me at 35 when I was diagnosed. So I was at the time playing racquetball. I was a competitive racquetball player. And my game was, I was just beginning, and I was moving up very quickly in the level of competition. Not because of my skill, but more because of my fitness level. And I could just out hustle people, and I could get to balls that I wasn't supposed to get to. And there came a point where I was playing in the middle of a game, and in marathon running, they call it bonking or hitting the wall, where you literally run out of fuel. There's nothing left in the tank. And at that point, I was in the middle of the game, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I could barely lift my racket up. And it's like, something's really, really wrong here. And then I went and got tested, and my A1C was between 6.7 and 6.9 at that time. So, yeah.
So do you think you ran out of glycogen stores?
I think
all of a sudden, I mean, I've seen that happen to athletes.
I think that's what happened. Yeah, that's what I would say. Because it was a day of competition, and those racquetball tournaments are brutal, and you can literally play for 6 to 8 hours a day. It's absolutely brutal. And the way I played, just a lot of hustle and pretty much just putting it all out on the court. I just didn't have it. I did not have it.
Yeah. So especially if your metabolism wasn't processing food right, then you weren't making the glycogen stores appropriately.
Exactly.
Also, it made me think that was your grandpa heavy by any chance?
No, nobody was heavy. No, okay, my grandpa, he actually had Crohn's disease as well. So we've got 2 autoimmunes there. Well, I guess technically diabetes isn't autoimmune, but so he had that.
Well, it makes me think of epigenetics, because we know that a lot of diabetes can be from epigenetics, and that if if it can be carried on through the children, and then if at some point if someone decides, no, I'm going to change this back, like you did, let's say you decide to have children, which right now they probably wouldn't have it.
Yeah,
because you've changed it.
Yeah.
We can change our genes. We can change our epigenetic genes.
Right.
Of course, more importantly is to change our own so we can live happy lives, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, weight wasn't a factor. My grandpa was actually very thin. My mom was tiny. My 2 aunts that were diagnosed, they tended to be a little bit heavier, but nothing obese. You wouldn't look at them and go, oh my gosh, they weren't like that.
Yeah, epigenetics also affects obesity genes, but it can also affect diabetes. So
yeah,
it makes me think it came from before.
Right.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's not an easy path. I deal with it all the time still.
Yeah, of course.
My A1C is, it ranges from 5.2 to 5.6, and I just give it my best all the time,
Yeah, well, those are good numbers. Those are good numbers. It would rather be 5.2 than 5.6, or less than 5.5, but
right. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Well, I have really changed things over the years. I started with getting refined carbohydrates out, of course. I think soda was my first stop. That was at 30 years old. I stopped that.
What was it? I'm sorry?
Soda pop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So at 35, when I was diagnosed, the first thing I did was I took bread out. Bread, pasta, rice. I took all that out and I put beans in. And my saving grace is to eat beans once a day. So when I do that, I'm good to go. Got a lot of energy and my numbers stay down. So beans were huge to get that into my diet.
Any kind of legumes or specifically beans?
I prefer black beans, but I'll eat any, I'll eat any pintos or any anasazi, any of that kind. Yeah.
Lentils count?
I don't really like lentils. I eat them.
Oh, but if someone did like them, they would be good, right?
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. They're a great source of carbohydrate and protein. Resistant starch. That's where it's at with that. So then I really worked on getting all the processed foods out. And that, again, was a big turning point for me, a big positive turning point. And then I ended up going, about 4 years ago, I started doing fasting. I would fast 1 day a week, which would be about between 32 and 36 hours of just a water fast, an iced tea, hot tea. Then with that came a vast decrease in meat, any animal products. Up until that point, I'd been cutting out my meat. I haven't eaten beef in 20 years or something. So that was really
So do you agree with the recent data that shows a lot of diabetes, particularly in this country, comes from meat?
Absolutely. I sure do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading it, and it's the saturated fat, the trans fats in the processed foods. Yeah,
And the inflammatory component of it
absolutely.
comes with
Absolutely.
its own cytokines.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all just it's so toxic. And then you throw in
Mm,
the high fructose corn syrup on top of that, and you've got a
right.
triple whammy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
do you think diabetes is partly an inflammatory disease?
I think, yeah, it's which came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which comes first? I don't know. I know my inflammation levels were high around the time I was diagnosed. They've
Mm-hmm.
never been high again though.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if
So,
it's just the changes that I made were good enough that brought them all down, that brought them
well,
down.
I think it makes sense. I mean, meat is inflammatory, sugar is inflammatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take away the inflammation,
Yeah. Yeah.
the original fathers of functional medicine. Take away what's bad and put in what's good, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I moved to a whole food plant-based diet in January of 2020. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm about 90 to 95% on that. Occasional dessert sneaks in, but I haven't touched meat in months, any kind of animal product actually, as far as
Mm-hmm.
like, meat goes, shrimp, fish, anything like that. So, yeah, and I'm trying to.
And eggs too?
What's that?
Eggs?
Yes, I knocked out eggs as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say like an egg is equivalent to 5 cigarettes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I suppose if it's organic or comes from a free-range grass-eating chicken, but I don't know how you
Yeah.
find those. But
Yeah. And then just, our bodies are so different. How are we processing food? Everybody's so different. I think our family has a genetic issue with gluten. Nobody's been diagnosed with celiac. I wouldn't doubt if my grandpa, he had Crohn's disease. Something was flaring that up.
yeah, honestly, Karen, I think everybody does. It's just a matter of degree.
Right.
And Dr. Pisano, he found in the 80s, the more gluten you eat, the more leaky gut you have, which of course leads to inflammation and other things. But,
Absolutely.
Is it the glyphosate in the gluten or is it gluten? I don't know. I think it's both.
Right.
We've hybridized the wheat. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And it's the wheat, the protein part, the gluten is 2/3 larger than it normally was. And our bodies are probably going, what the heck is that?
Exactly.
Because it seems like when you eat the wheat from Italy, which is primarily from semolina, which is the original seed, has an anti-gliadin part right in it. It's not as bothersome. They do pretty well.
Right.
Just
yeah. I have friends that go over to Europe who are have celiac or pretty close to it, and they go over to Europe and they're fine eating bread. They have no problem.
Exactly for that reason.
Exactly.
But then you got to know what you're eating too, because I don't know how much Monsanto slipped into there or
right.
What. But I know in Italy it's pretty safe.
Yeah. Yeah, they infiltrate, that's for sure. Monsanto.
They can.
Yep.
So what else? So not much meat, not any meat.
Right. Yeah, and I'm slowly getting some grains in.
So are you plant-based then, or?
Yeah, I'm whole food plant-based.
Okay.
So it's all what Mother Nature made. I'm getting some grains in. That's a slow process, just because it does raise my blood sugar a little bit more than I like, and I think that's just a result of I'm still eating a little bit too much fat. So with different oils or like hummus and stuff like that I'm not making myself.
Yeah, a lot of people try to treat type 2 diabetes with keto, and The recent studies, these are very recent studies, showed that, excess fat of any kind, even the best fat, even olive oil, can cause insulin resistance. So I always sort of intuitively felt I just didn't like keto. It seemed.
Yeah. And what I've learned about keto is that keto will lower your A1C, probably lower than a whole food plant-based diet. But what damage is it causing along the way? And it just
exactly, and it's not lasting. If your insulin resistance ends up going up, or you get osteoporosis, but it makes you acidic.
Right.
Exactly. And we all know we don't want to be acidic. We want to be alkaline.
Absolutely. And yeah, it just proves that the A1C isn't the be all end all, because these people can't even look at an apple without their blood sugar spiking, because they're insulin resistant at that point to a large degree, a huge degree.
So how do you turn that around? That high sensitivity right there.
Well, you got to knock out all that saturated fat. That's number one. You got to get that out of there, and then start putting in some. Get the beans in. Replace the beans, or replace the meat with the beans, and get the processed foods out. Which I'll say something about keto that's good is that they don't eat processed food, as far as the junk stuff goes. That's not part of their thing. Now,
kind of a given, right?
If meat is really processed, I understand that. But as far as the junk food goes, the Twinkies, donuts, ding dongs, crackers, chips, they're not eating that. So I'll give them that. That's great. That's a great start. Now let's get that meat out of there, replace it with beans, get the veggies in there, get all the veggies, get the root veggies. You shouldn't be sensitive to root veggies. That's not normal. Get the fruits in there. So it's a slow process. I treat it as a slow process in my T2 Diabetes Warriors membership, in that we just do one step at a time. So I might just, it's all about implementing action steps, and it starts with drinking more water, and it's baby steps, And some people are above that, and they're beyond that, and that's fine. So they can just keep going, moving on. But we gotta, we start with one meal at a time, change one meal at a time, and then work from there. So, and it's all about, it's all about food. What are we going to eat? What kind of food could we put in us that tastes delicious? I have a huge library of recipes in the membership site. So, so we just got to find what we like that's healthy for us, have our set of rules, and keep going.
So what about activity? Do you talk about that in your classes?
I do. I highly encourage it, since exercise acts like insulin. It's very important.
Right.
It's very important. And I even noticed in myself, if I take my dogs for a walk and I have a high grain breakfast, my blood sugar will be a little bit too high. But if I take my dogs for a walk and I ride the bike for 10 minutes, my blood sugar is normal. So it's just that little bit. And, I don't think I'm like a quote unquote normal person in my blood sugar response. I don't think, I don't carry a lot of weight. I exercise, and I still have to deal with all these issues. And that's fine, because you know what? That makes me empathize with my clients a lot more, because I understand it. I get it, and I feel like I have to take a couple extra steps that other people don't have to take. And that's fine. That's all right. I'm made for that. It's okay. But it's been a really good learning experience for me, because I don't fall into what I would consider a more normal place with diabetes in that realm.
But you find that a little extra exercise helps?
It helps. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. It helps about 15 to 20 points. That's how much it helps. Just 10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of riding the bike. That's it.
And what do you mean by when you say grain
I might
oriented?
have like a quinoa bowl for breakfast. So it's like quinoa, some cherries, blueberries, half a banana, some cinnamon, some unsweetened almond milk, and then I put some flaxseed in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so something like that will get my blood sugar up a little bit too high if I don't do those right exercise steps. So other grains, I don't eat a whole lot of grains. Maybe oat groats. I'll eat that. That's
What
pretty.
are oat groats?
Oat groats are the whole oat of like oatmeal. They look like rice.
Isn't that what we always eat? Whole grain? Isn't oatmeal whole grain?
It is, but it's. I think it's been processed because oat groats are. They look like rice. They look like grains of rice.
So don't get the steel cut ones. Get the whole ones.
Yeah, the only place I've been able to find them is online on Amazon.
What's it? Oh, so so you actually buy it? It's called Oat Groats.
Oat groats. Yeah. And they're
Yeah, because oatmeal looks like they ran over it with a bulldozer, like it's
I
been
don't
flattened.
think that's the normal. Yeah, I think they're processed to that degree. Just into a different form. Yeah, because oat groats are very hard, just like rice. When you cook them, they're chewy, chewier than rice, a little bit more firm. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. I never realized what it was about oatmeal I just don't gravitate to it.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. So yeah, it's just finding different things that work for me, and that I enjoy eating. That's and keeping my blood sugar down. Those are the three. Those are the things that I got to really, I got to watch out for.
So this is what you focus on when you work with your clients?
I do. They're not in the same boat as I am. Nobody's in the same boat as anybody else, really, except that, they might be coming to me with a really bad diet, So like I said, it's just baby steps. Let's just not try to change everything at once. Work on, one thing at a time. What we do is we have a meeting every week. I meet with them on via Zoom, and we talk about the lesson of the week, how they're implementing it, struggles and challenges they're having, and then we strategize what they can do about it. So it's that one-on-one, not really one-on-one because it's a small group at the time that we're meeting, but they're getting that attention that keeps them compliant, keeps them motivated to keep making progress. And that's a lot. They say that people that if you're in a group, you're 7 times more likely to succeed in making a change. So that was huge for me. I started group training when I had my fitness studio, and it wasn't something that was on my radar because I worked with people with pretty severe orthopedic issues, and I couldn't see how I was going to implement that into my group training, into my work, into my studio, my training, and I figured out a system that would allow me to keep an eye on people while they're doing these exercises. And while I was keeping an eye on them, I could also alter their exercise a little bit to make it more friendly to their body. So when I heard about memberships and working in a group format, I thought, oh boy, with my health coaching, this would be perfect, because they're all, they can all, bounce ideas off of each other and sympathize with each other, because they're all going through some sort of the same change together. And they sit there and they encourage each other. They'll give each other feedback, and it's been really good. It's been really good having that group atmosphere.
Well, that's so true, and this has been shown in mental health groups as well. They do better when they're in the group than if they're just getting one-on-one.
Yeah.
So interesting, and I think part of it is the feedback from the rest of the people and feeling they're not alone, maybe.
Exactly.
So that's great. So when they come to you, they're really getting a lot. They're getting somebody that's a trained fitness coach, a trained nutrition coach, and trained functional medicine, but also has this specific interest and talent with type 2 diabetes. So they're getting a whole lot with you.
Yeah.
So tell me, just give us an example. I know you said you just go little steps, but just give us a working example of what it might be like to join your group. What do you do first, second, third, fourth, that kind of thing?
Okay. So the first thing they do is I have a membership site. So it's a whole website built out, and it holds all their lessons. It holds all the different resources I offer, different blood tests they should have, all that stuff, different recipes. It holds all that. So they come in, and their first step is they fill out probably 15 pages of questionnaires. And one of those questionnaires, which is super, super helpful for them and for me, it's called a medical symptoms questionnaire. And I got this through my health coaching, through the functional medicine health coaching program. And it's basically all these little things that you don't really think about. Maybe congestion might be one, aches and pains, stomach aches, and any physical symptom. And you don't really think about it. But when you have to sit there and read it, and you're thinking about it, you're like, oh, I do have that. I do have that, So it makes them aware of those things that they have. And then when I come back and I tell them that medical symptoms questionnaire is nutrition related, those symptoms that you have is because of stuff that you're putting in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a big eye opener for them. And then they do these other questionnaires, and it's kind of a starting point, like a sleep questionnaire. How well are you sleeping? How stressed out are you? All these things that are just bringing everything to the surface of how they're feeling, because we're really good at covering that stuff up. And this needs to be out there. We really need to be, this needs to be out there. It needs to be up at the surface, and we need to be aware of it. And when we are, they're going through these changes of nutrition, within a few weeks, that MSQ score will come down 15, 20 points. And so that's like the first step we take, is it's sort of a reality check as to how you really aren't feeling that good, but you it's not there. People just push it down and keep plodding through life. And it's like, let's get you feeling good, and that's a huge motivator. When they start seeing those numbers come down, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel good. I didn't realize I had that hip pain for so long, so it's very motivating. So that's one of the big things that the first step we take. Then we move on into, like I said, we'll do some drink more water. And I'll give them a list of they have stages. There's 5 stages in this membership, and each stage represents a different level of nutrition, hydration, sleep, stress. So they are grading themselves along the way. And when you get to stage 5, if you're stage 5 across the board, you've reversed diabetes. Unless of course you're that, minority of people that, too much damage has been done. You're already on insulin anyways. So, yeah. But if you do those stages, you do those steps, and it's not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You're going to be able to reverse diabetes. You're there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So then we do, like I said, we do the 1 call a week. And then as we start implementing the food changes, I actually incorporate beans before we start really working on the whole diet. So, anytime you can, it's like two tablespoons a day to start, because some people are really sensitive, and we need to appreciate that and take care of those people. So then we just, we go from there with, we're strategizing. One huge thing we do is we do a lot of mindset work, because when you're trying to make a change, it's tough. Change is tough, especially when you've been, when your brain has been altered by all the chemicals and processed foods. The addiction component of sugar, of gluten, of dairy. We need to deal with that, and that's very much at the forefront of our program too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We use different relaxation techniques, tapping solution. We do tapping. We do some. I have them go on apps, just and do like a Headspace or Calm for meditation, and just get them to the point where their mind is rewired, their perception has changed, and they're ready to make a change. That's nice. That's the bottom line there. It's just get them comfortable with that, because our brain is screaming, we do not want to change. The psychology of it is we just don't want to change. And if you want to reverse diabetes, things got to change. They just have to change. So.
Great. So can they message you, or like if they're going throughout their week, they have a question, they want to?
Yep. They have my email address, so they can contact me at any time. I believe they even have my cell number, so they can get hold of me there and text me and just let me know what's going on. I want to give them that, and they do know when I go off grid, because I do go off grid. So it's like, okay, guys, I'm going away for a few days, so don't try to get a hold of me. Got any questions? Hit me now. So I want to give them that as much attention as I can, because it's a big change. It's a big change, mm-hmm. and the way I set up my membership is what I wish I had 15, 20 years ago. I wish I had a program like this, that I knew the changes to make. All the noise from outside is shut off. Focus on this. Just focus on this, and you're going to get to where you want to go. If you want to see all the research, I'll be happy to provide it. Nobody ever does, because that's, too much to read. But it's cut that noise out. We do a little bit of talk about keto, because that's such a big thing. Everybody thinks that that's the be all end all. And we do talk about that, about how it's just not the answer. And we want to be insulin sensitive. That's the goal, is become insulin sensitive. Let's get you to where you can have a couple of oranges and your blood sugar's not at 300. Let's do that, you know? So.
Awesome. So, tell me the most moving success story you've worked with so far.
You know what? I'm gonna give
apart from you.
Right. I'm going to give you my mother-in-law's story, because I use her as my shining example of if she can do it, you can do it. My mother-in-law was 82, I think, when she started working with me.
Wow.
For her blood sugar. We knew she was diabetic. She's been diabetic for years, but for some reason, the doctor never put her on anything except a statin, and she couldn't take statins. So I finally
statins cause diabetes too.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, she had the nerve, or not the nerve, she had the muscle stuff going on with the statins. So I finally wore her down. It took me about 15 years to wear her down, to finally work with me. And she was one of those perpetual dieters. You know, this is, how many generations now do we have this going on? These ridiculous diets of Jenny Craig, and I'm not going to go, I won't bash. Anyways, so she's 82 years old. She has horrible COPD. And she had just come out of the hospital, and they were talking about supplementing her with oxygen full time. And she did not want any part of that. Even though it made her feel better, she didn't want any part of that. So she kind of felt like she was backed into a corner. If she wanted to continue having any kind of life, she needed to make some changes. So at that point in time, I hadn't been studying whole food plant-based. But we made enough changes to where it just made me so mad, because she got her A1C down lower than mine, and it made me mad. Anyway, she lost 35 pounds. And the interesting thing with this is that I thought her COPD was because of her weight. I thought it was just that compression. She carried it all in her stomach. I thought it was a compression on her lungs, on her stomach, pushing up on her, everything. And before she lost 5 pounds, her breathing, her ability to walk up a flight of stairs, it was so much better. Marked improvement before she hit 5 pounds. What I did do with her right away is we cut out dairy and we cut out gluten. 100% gone. Get it out of there. And she obviously had some sensitivity to that, because her response was so fast. And it really, really motivated her that, wow, I feel so much better. You know, so we worked on, the thing with her also is she had really bad back pain. She had just a lot of arthritis, a lot of just leg pain, all that. So I told her, I said, okay, I'm gonna make you a deal. I said, I'm going to cook all of your food for 1 month. And in that 1 month, all you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the store and buy fresh vegetables and fruit. And you're gonna go online and you're gonna look for recipes. And here are your guidelines, you know, no dairy, no this, no that. And you find some recipes that you might like to make. So she was good on the deal. I kept her freezer filled up with food. And after that month was over, she was okay to cook. She can go ahead and prepare food again, because she couldn't stand. That was the problem. She couldn't stand long enough to cut an onion or, you know, saute stuff. She just couldn't do it. And she was so much pain. So that was a big, big step for her, that she did it. She was able to, after the month was over, she had lost I don't know, probably 10 pounds, 15 pounds or so. And she was able to go and cook for herself. And part of her exercise program was to go into the grocery store and take the cart, because she was still unsteady on her feet, and go ahead and walk the aisles. But just make sure you eat first and go walk the aisles, with the shopping cart. And she lived in a senior housing community. So it was, the Vaughn's was right next door to her. So it was all the seniors there. So they'd all see her. Oh, hi, Libby, so it was really, she did it. She was pretty good with her follow through on everything. And so she ended up losing 35 pounds. Her A1C went from, oh wow, it was well over 7, down to 5.2, ranged from 5.2 to 5.4. Wow. And her cholesterol just tanked, as it should. But I do want to mention that this was before I was working with whole food plant-based. This is just changes that I think so much of her inflammation was because of the dairy and the gluten, and who knows which one. She never brought either one back. So
no, well, they're both bad. I mean, yeah. But dairy, even organic dairy, they allow 750 white cells per milliliter.
Yeah.
So it's basically pus.
Yeah.
Cheese is coagulated pus, and I don't know what kind of dairy she was doing, but there's a lot of white cells, and they have cytokines, and you drink them, and they get cytokines in your body, which attract white cells and release more cytokines. Super inflammatory.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she was a walking example of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So she eventually was walking up 2 flights of stairs, and from going to somebody who couldn't stand up to chop an onion at the counter, so she was really my beaming example, because she made the changes. People noticed, her whole family, was affected in a positive way by her increased fitness level, her endurance. We didn't have to watch out for her so much. And and she lived independently till the day she died. So it was a great experience to work with her. Somebody being at such a very, very low level of fitness, of health, basically, just a very low level of health. So I would say she would be she is. I use her as an example all the time, because I just think if an 82-year-old woman can do it, so can you. Just
exactly
make the baby changes. And she was my guinea pig too. She was my guinea pig. I was really, I was happy that she bought into it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Great.
Yeah.
So do you guys have a graduation when you finish your program?
You know what? I haven't done anything yet like that. I haven't done anything. I've got people in there, and they stay in there. They're there for the, we have a Facebook page, and I started doing, once a week I go on live, and I give them a little pep talk. So I started doing that, and we haven't had a graduation. It's kind of, that's an interesting question. It's something I should think about doing, because they stay there. They, even after they're reached stage 5, they're there. They're just, they're just there for the reinforcement. Just keep getting that, that encouragement, I think. Yeah. So
it would be fun.
Yeah.
So that's just great. I hope many people sign up with you, because you have a lot to offer. As I said, you've got the fitness, you've got the know-how, you've got the personal experience, and special interest in type 2 diabetes because of your own pathway. And I think that, I'm going to refer my patients to you anyway.
All right. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So what sort of message do you want to leave my guests with in terms of, health and diabetes?
I would say,
What are the wisdom words from
I
Karin Yehling?
I would say you can do it. Reversing type 2 diabetes is possible. And, you know, there is that small percentage that can't. They know who they are. But for the normal person who has, you know, been diabetic for 5 years, just can't seem to figure out what to eat, we have the answers. We have the answers. And with my program, we make small changes. It's all research backed, and you get results, you know, and just to let people know that it is possible. And, you know, my goal is to take care of my people, you know, is to make sure you're on the right path and help you strategize the holidays, strategize those meals out with friends and family, and don't be afraid of change. You know, it's gotta happen, but if you do it the right way and you do the mindset work, that just takes you there a lot faster.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Karin Yehling, people. So how do we find you?
So you can go to KarinYehling.com. I'm also at on Instagram, and my handle is at Karin Yehling. It's Karin. And I have a private Facebook group, and it's called Reverse T2 Diabetes with Karin. So they have to be a member to join that, or anybody can? Nope. You can just ask to join, and I'll let you in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for your work.
All right.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit from that, and we certainly need it. With what do we have? Over 365 million people with diabetes in this country right now?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's going to, you know, the continuum, actually, the diabetes continuum actually starts with being overweight. So you're looking at 50% of the people, you know, and a lot of those overweight people, not all, but most of them are going to have insulin resistance. And that's where that starts.
Yeah.
So there's enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah.
As many diabetes educators as we can get would be just the best. And
yeah, so even if people don't necessarily have diabetes, but if they just have insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, it would be good to join your group as well.
Absolutely.
That's the time to get it, right?
Exactly. And absolutely, because it's all the same thing. It's prevention, and the reversal process are the exact same. So it just
perfect.
For the people who don't have diabetes, the results come faster.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. We'll talk more.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work, and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokak brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance.